All right, so we are going to start to take a look forward at our next topic, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about how we're doing on our current Giuseppe Archibaldi style self-portraits. Does that sound good? So I'm going to show you some images. So I'm going to start sharing screen and then I'll open up chat. And if there's a problem, just let me know. We had a little bit of a problem earlier, but hopefully everything's cool because I've reduced about down the open windows that I have. So we're going to go to share screen. And then move chat to here. I wish chat would. I got to find a way to make chat automatically do that. All right, so here is one of my drive folders, and we're going to start looking at a thing called Displacement Maps. And there's a couple of things we can do with Displacement Maps. So this is some finished student work I'm going to show you. So you can see this isn't a bad one. Where she has the deeper shadows, it looks like it wraps more, but where she has a lot of highlights, it just kind of glosses over. So we lose some of the details in here. And we're going to talk about how to make that better in what we're doing. So you can see here, he made a little okay symbol, and he did a great job. I mean, this looks like it bends in with the wrinkles of his hand and the skin. So it looks like it's really on his skin. And in reality, this is just a blank arm. Let's find some other ones. We'll pull up this neck one. So he made this in Photoshop, just did a quick little doodle, and I applied it to his neck. The downside is it's not big enough to really morph around him. I mean, it's a good use of the displacement. It'd be better if he could have got it like up onto his face so it looked like it wrapped around his jaw and maybe went under his hoodie. This is a person starting the Giuseppe Archibaldi. That is not a displacement map. You can see how he starts to curve it. It goes and curves around the arm. Again, made the pattern in Photoshop and then applied it. So this one, the person not only did it in color, they also switched it to black and white and kind of zoomed in a little bit more. And they readjusted the tattoo in the second image. So they set it up, and this one looks good. They just felt like they could get more of the finger wrap to it. So in the second image, the black and white image here, you can see it how it better kind of folds and goes around the skin or wraps around the skin. One of the other things that we're going to learn how to do with this, so this is a person's image, and then these are words about them. And you can see how they wrap around their face. So this is another use of a displacement map. A good after and before picture. So, and this image here is probably part of the map they're using to make the displacement happen, where you can see how it's really high-end pushed lights, and they've started to go in and emphasize the darker areas. We're going to have to make a map that deals with pushing up our highlights and dropping down our contrast so that the areas that are darker seem further away, and that's what makes this wrap happen. The person eventually had to add some shadow into this part of their arm so that these pieces bent, and then they had to put a highlight right down the middle to keep this one up. The first time they did it, they had too thin of a streak, and it looked like they had a ridge down their arm, so they had to fix through that. Oops, not that button. There it is. So come up to the top, and here we have a whole bunch of people working. So here is her starting her map where she's really building the highlights. This is her shadows. And it makes effects for things like this, where he took the UT logo. So the blue is, all of this was the UT logo. He set it to be more transparent. And then it looks like he has a bizarre face tattoo of the UT logo. Ears, he left them undone, but this is a nice wrap. This is her mask. So to make those wraps happen, you can see where she's pushed the highlights and dropped in the shadows. This is another way to do the mask. So he has all of his words laid out, and then he uses those to kind of cut. Now the only one here is there's this big word right here. You can see where he actually cut it out. And you can see instead of it wrapping around, we can definitely see that it's been cut out from this section. So this is something where we probably should have adjusted his finished design work. But up in here, across his head, it looks like the B and the A and the N, they look as if they wrap down into his face. And these look like they wrap around his nose, and the SA dips in for his lips. So this is all the stuff that we can do with displacement maps. So we are going to work with displacement maps. This week, I'm going to post up some videos for you to watch, besides the video we make, and they're going to kind of give you a step-by-step way to go through how to do a displacement. And then on Wednesday, we're going to start talking about what kind of displacement we want to do. Are we going to, and we're going to be able to apply the displacement to a couple of things. So are we going to do something with our face? Are we going to do something with our arm? Some of the people did things like around their neck. We're going to look at doing a displacement. Are you going to try to make, like my hoodie, would you want to do a displacement where you change the material, change the look of the material? So our next thing that we are going to be dealing with is going to be about displacements and displacement maps, because it's a very powerful tool that a lot of different digital medias use. And Photoshop was one of the first ones to kind of develop this idea of taking a surface and then being able to apply different looks to that surface. And it's not too hard to do. There's a couple of steps. And once you get through the steps, it's very easy. And really, displacements haven't changed. They've tweaked it. The program's gotten a little bit more sophisticated, but it hasn't changed much in probably the last 5 years, maybe 8 years. So we will start to look at displacement maps. Currently, we are getting close to, and hopefully are almost done with our Giuseppe Archimaboldi style. So what I want to do today is I want to take a look at, if I can get up, there he is. Nope, not Archibald, local schools, haha. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to take a look at a couple of Giuseppe's works. And we're just going to take a little bit of time to look at 2 of his works. Sound good? So do that, get our chat back over. So here we have the bowl of fruit, and then when you flip it over, we have the person's face. Now, the nice thing about this one is this is not an original Giuseppe Archimaboldi. When you look at it, this is actually an arranged bowl of fruit. It's an advertising commissioned, and it's still life. So this was made based off of our happy artist, Giuseppe Archimaboldi, or Boldi. And it's based off of this painting and you can see, so here's the original painting. You can take a couple seconds, take a good look at it. And then we're gonna go back to the advertisement. So again, it's a reuse of art. It's taking someone who wanted to be remembered in a unique way, and then now modern look back into his work is finding use for it. So this is an advertising, it's meant for an advertising company. It was commissioned by, and it took an artist some time to think this out. I mean, they had to carefully plan it. Now, the cool thing is that modern photography, you can snap your picture and you can rotate it right inside of Photoshop or inside of a simple photo editor, and you can see how it's going to look. Is everything reading the correct way? Do I have eyes, nose, mouth? You know, am I getting that feeling? Does this look like hair? Do I have an idea of where the neck is? Whereas Giuseppe, when he originally did this, he would have had to twist the painting around to make sure it was doing what he wanted. Now, he had the freedom, he didn't have to worry about gravity. He could have done a quick drawing of the person. But again, with Photoshop, we can easily put down a person and then we can put things over, which is what we've been doing. So I thought this was kind of a fun one, and I want to show you that. I'd really like to look at this, the librarian. And we wanted to discuss, so obviously not in English. Oh, I don't want to sign up. I thought it was a better size, but it's giving us a pain. So we're going to go here and we'll do this. There, that's a good size. And then it takes us to this other website that we don't want to go to. So what we're going to look at is how he's manipulated this image. So a curtain from the library, simple place to separate off areas, and it goes from the curtain to the cape or the coat that the librarian would wear. Everything in here is library books. So these little fuzzy things would be bookmarks with fuzzy ends. The hand is all crafted from bookmarks. Now, we don't have a proper hand, we just have a semblance of bending fingers, and it might be holding this book, but we can see arm, upper arm, lower arm. We can see body, shoulders, cheeks. The eyes are actually lamps, so it'd be an oil lamp. The ear is another ribbon. A ribbon curls around for the bookbinding nose and for the nostril. And then we have the hair with the open book, and then the little tassels make all the stray pieces of hair. So a lot of interesting things incorporating into it. The hair on the side is just, these are fronts of books, and you can see them over here. It gets a little bit convoluted. And then on the sides here, you can see the size of the book. So he's using perspective. These are going away in perspective. Everything is laid out. We have a table that the arm sits upon so that he doesn't have to show us the rest of the body. We have the cloak that wraps to cover up this side. He might have got tired or maybe had to finish the work, so he's covering up a larger section. So in your piece, we're doing basically this area, just this section is what you've been covering based on things about you. So we're gonna hop back over now. And we just wanna make sure that what we're doing is, we don't wanna have like the one I showed you that was partially finished, where the person only had parts of their face covered. We wanna make sure that we have a full finished look when we're done. And we should be getting close to kind of wrapping those together this week. So Wednesday's plan is to look at displacement maps and kind of talk a little bit more in depth. And then I'll also put out the videos for displacement maps. So we want to make sure that for Wednesday, we're starting to think about what are we going to do first in our displacement. Are we going to do words? Are we going to change something on our clothing? Are we going to add a tattoo? Traditionally, I have students do the fake tattoo. I have the tattoo put somewhere where you're going to get a lot of bends. So not a little small guy, but something that would be something that you wouldn't really do. A whole face tattoo that goes into a neck, a full neck tattoo so it wraps around, a tattoo that covers a big chunk of your hand so we can see it wrapping. It doesn't have to be a giant tattoo. You saw the one where the hand's bent and they had the little okay sign that they put inside of just the wrist, because we just want to make sure that you understand how to manipulate and wrap those in places. So Wednesday, we're going to start to look at that, and we're going to make decisions based on how our tattoo is going to go. And then we'll start next week into displacement maps. So I'm going to hit pause because we don't need to have this going. And then we'll talk about your piece in particular, and if we need to do anything, and then otherwise, we're going to wrap.